Hey friends, welcome back to Acre Homestead. My name is Becky, and today we are going to be making a whole lot of pizza sauce. I just went out into the garden and harvested a ton of tomatoes. We've got tomatoes and basil and garlic and just a beautiful array of gorgeousness. And it is early. It's actually not as early as I would like. It's about 10:30. And I need to head to the gym. Normally I go to the gym at like 6 in the morning with my husband this morning, but he decided not to go to the gym, so we slept in. So I figured what I need to do is I need to get this pizza sauce going before I head to the gym, and then when I come back, hopefully it will be cooked down enough and we can get it canned up together. We are gonna follow the recipe from the Ball Complete Book of Home Preservation. This is the most complete guide to canning, so if you're new to canning, I'd recommend you go get this book. I will leave it down in the description box below if you're interested. My mom gave me this book when I told her I wanted to get into canning, and it's the only canning cookbook I've ever needed. So what we're gonna do first is I do a very hands-off, very easy approach when it comes to making my tomato sauce and pizza sauce. I had a couple frozen tomatoes because they were about to go bad and I wasn't gonna have time, this was a couple weeks ago, to get to them, so I threw them in here. What I'm gonna do is I don't do anything special. All I do is just core my tomatoes and I throw them into a roaster pot. I make almost all my tomato sauce in a roaster pan. This is super easy to do it this way. I might not even cut them in half. I might cut them in half. Sometimes I don't even core them. Last year was the first year I canned pizza sauce. I always can my tomatoes just as tomato sauce so I could do whatever I wanted with them. But I have found that when you then want to make a quick meal, you then have to make your tomato sauce into pizza sauce. So last year I finally broke down and decided to can pizza sauce, never looked back. I won't ever go a year again without canning pizza sauce. The flavor is fantastic and it's just really good. I did want to mention that I also got out some pizza dough from the freezer. I made this pizza dough in the last freezer meal video I did. If you want to watch that, it'll be up here and down in the description box after you finish this video. But I'm going to show you how I'm going to use this tonight. I'm actually going to cook pizza with this pizza sauce we're making. If we're making pizza sauce, we might as well have some pizza for dinner tonight. And having frozen pizza dough in your freezer is just an easy way to have homemade pizza really regularly, along with home canned pizza sauce. So all I did with that pizza dough is I took it out of the freezer and I put it in the refrigerator, and I'm gonna let it thaw in the refrigerator. And then we're gonna have some fantastic pizza tonight. Last time I cooked pizza with you guys, I completely burnt it, so we're gonna see if I can redeem myself today. The recipe for that frozen pizza dough is actually on my blog, scratchpantry.com. So if you want to check out just the recipe, it will be on scratchpantry.com. Now that I have some tomatoes in here, I'm turning on the roaster to about 300 degrees. If you haven't canned tomato sauce in a roaster pan before, this is a game changer. I used to make all my tomato products on the stove, and I would have 2 Dutch ovens going. And it was just so much more work. I had to do it in batches. I went ahead and broke down and bought myself one of these 22-quart roaster pans. I actually have 2 of them, so I might need to get the second one out depending on how many tomatoes I have here. And it's just been a game changer. It makes canning so much easier. Sometimes there's a little bit of a blemish on a tomato when you grow heirloom varieties, and I just cut that off. It's not a big deal. You don't need to cut it off, but I do, only if they're big. I have some basil that I just harvested this morning, and I'm gonna throw that in here as well. I just can't believe I grew these tomatoes. It's only my 2nd year gardening, and if I can do it, you guys can do it. Seriously, I just cannot believe that this is something that I did. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's perfect to me. I can't tell you what varieties of tomatoes these are. They are honestly a little bit of everything. I have everything documented what I grew out there, and there's definitely varieties that I'm gonna grow next year that I'm not gonna grow this year, and I'm probably gonna reduce the amount of varieties. I think I probably have like 40 different varieties out there, and that's way too many. Getting the last of the basil in here, some Roma tomatoes. I have 1 jalapeno. I think I'm just gonna throw this in here. This isn't in the recipe, but I'm gonna throw 1 jalapeno in here. Actually 2, because I harvested 2. Then I also harvested a ton of parsley. We're gonna get a bunch of this in here too. I'm gonna peel a ton of garlic now. I went ahead and put 3 heads of garlic in here. I'm not worried about chopping or anything yet because I'm gonna blend them at the end, so we'll just deal with that then. I am gonna deviate from the recipe a little bit and add some red wine. This is not in the recipe. And when you're first learning to can, follow your recipe to the T. But I've done this long enough that I'm comfortable adding this. This is actually gonna acidify my product, and when you're water bathing, you want acidic products, so I'm comfortable adding some red wine. So I just threw some in there. I can see that I can add quite a bit more in here. When my tomatoes are ripe as they're coming in, I don't do anything to them. I throw them into the freezer whole. They don't freezer burn or anything. And we are gonna add some more tomatoes in here. Now I'm gonna put the lid on this and I'm gonna let this go for a few hours. I'm gonna head to the gym, I'm gonna go to my P.O. box, I'm gonna run a bunch of errands. When I come back, we're gonna start the next step on this pizza sauce. I just got home from the gym and this is exactly what it looked like when I got home. We're gonna give it a good stir. I'm gonna leave the lid off now and I'm gonna let it just continue to cook down without the lid on. I got distracted by these peppers I bought. I bought 40 pounds of peppers from a local farm that I buy my peppers from every year. These are organic peppers and I get them for $2 a pound and they're just stunning. And I had 3 big boxes like this to take care of. So what I'm doing, I do this every year, is I chop and dice up peppers and I throw them in the freezer. So I'll have some that are gonna be diced like this and some that are gonna be sliced like this. And I preserve them up and they cook up really well. You don't want to eat them fresh, obviously, like thaw and then eat them. You want to cook them in something. But this is a great way to get organic peppers for a really great price. This is how I like to cut them to make my life a lot easier. I'm going to do some in dices and some in slices, I guess. So you want to cut the top off. This is how you cut a pepper anytime. And then you cut the bottom off. And now you have this beautiful flat surface. This is what gets turned into the dices. So I turn these into the cubes that go into this bag. And then I turn this part into the slices. And I turn it this way so I can see where the actual seed part is. And then I just slice down like this, trying to trim the rib out. And now I have these really nice flat pieces that are really square, and I can cut them into slices. And if I wanted to cut these into dices, I could, and they would make a really nice uniform dice. But these are gonna be my sticks. In the years past, when I've done this, I usually put my peppers in Ziploc bags, freezer bags. But this year, I'm trying to do something a little bit better. I'm trying to keep them a little fresher. I'm using a food saver. By the end of the year, usually there is a little bit of frost on them when I would use a gallon freezer bag. And so I'm doing it this way to try to prevent a little bit of that. And I'm gonna put about the equivalent of what we would eat in one dinner in one of these bags. And so I'm doing quarts because when you do a food saver, you can't pre-seal it really that well once you've opened it. And this is about how many I'm putting in one bag. I'm putting this many in one bag because this is about 2 peppers, 2.5 peppers, and this is what we'd probably eat when I make one dinner. Same with the dices. I got 5 bags, oh hi Gizmo, of the chopped peppers, and I got 5 bags of the sliced peppers. I don't go through the sliced peppers as much, and these ones are all in quart size, and I ran out of quart size, so I put some in gallon size, and I got 3 of these, which this one actually had the equivalent of 3 of the quart size, so maybe when I do like a big freezer cooking day and I need chopped peppers, I'll use this. This took me a total of about an hour and a half, but the awesome thing about it is when I go to cook these, they're already chopped, ready to go, and I'm actually gonna save myself a big step when it comes to cooking. So I'm always glad to have these in the freezer. I supported a local farmer, 100% organic, and I'm excited about this. I've showered and I'm feeling much better, so let's get on to the next step with this pizza sauce. I've got my clean jars there. I've got my canner heating up. It's actually boiling, so I just turned it down. You can see how thick this sauce is getting, and I haven't even blended it up yet, so I'm thrilled with that. I wanted to add a few more seasonings. I have some homegrown oregano here. I also wanted to add a little bit more, or maybe a lot more basil. I have some homemade seasoned salt here. If you want the recipe for this homemade seasoned salt, it will be linked down in the description box below. It is on scratchpantry.com. I have some cheese grated here for our pizza. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of brown sugar. Now we are gonna use one of my absolute favorite kitchen appliances, and it is a hand blender. I canned tomato products for, I think, like 4 or 5 years before maybe 6 years before I finally broke down and bought one of these. And this is the biggest time saver you will have in the kitchen. We're just gonna hand blend this whole thing up. The reason this is faster and easier is the way I used to do it is take it from here, put it in a blender, and it was just a mess. So this is way easier just to do it right in here. But we need to give it a taste before we bottle it. I think it can use a little bit more salt. New spoon. There we go. Remember, this is 22 quarts, so that might look like a lot of salt, but this is a lot of pizza sauce. So I'm canning in pints today. The reason I like to can my pizza sauce in pints because that makes 2 pizzas perfectly for us. I'm adding 1 tablespoon of lemon juice into each one of these jars. Now we're gonna fill the jars and we're gonna leave a 1/4 inch of headspace. I'm gonna wipe the rim of each one of these jars. We're gonna put a canning lid on, put a ring on it, and stick it in the canner. It's time to get these jars in the canner. They are pretty hot to the touch. We have our canner full of jars. We're gonna put the lid on it. I'm gonna turn the heat back up. Once this comes to a rolling boil, we're gonna set the timer for 35 minutes. While this is going, I am gonna go ahead and get the pizza made. I just have some parchment paper that I spread a little bit of olive oil on, and I'm gonna put a little bit of cornmeal down just for prevent stickage. That might have been a little too much. Just gonna start pressing it out a little bit. I have the oven preheated to 425 degrees. Homegrown Walla Walla onions here. I'm gonna put some of these peppers I cut up earlier. Peppers, onions, and sausage are my husband and I's favorite pizza combination. We don't always have that. It usually is just whatever vegetables we have on hand is what gets thrown on pizza. But I happen to have that today, so that's what we're having. We have some home cooked sausage here. I cooked this actually the same day I cooked made the pizza dough, I should say, in that last freezer cooking video. And now those just get put in a 425 degree oven until cooked. As you can see, I did get a second canner out because I have so much more pizza sauce than I kind of was anticipating, which is awesome. So I want to just have that out so I can have 2 going at once. We had an explosion. Darn it, this is my second jar this year to bust open. If you're a canner, it's bound to happen, but that's why you try to want to get your jars at the same temperature when they're going in the canner. And you want to make sure that when you look at your jars, there's no nicks or cracks or anything in them, but it happens, shoot. So that has been boiling for 35 minutes, so I turned the stove off, and I'm gonna get more jars in it once it sits for 5 minutes. I'll take the jars out, and we'll get the new jars in. I did not break it. I didn't put the ring on it. That is annoying. Shoot. Oh well. Oh well. Pizzas are done, and those look perfect. No burning this time. Well, friends, I just emptied and reloaded this canner. This canner has about 15 minutes left, And these jars here are out here cooling. We got 35 pints of pizza sauce, which is pretty awesome. That means we can make pizza 35 times this year with homegrown pizza sauce. Everything in that jar, I think, except for the salt and the wine, is homegrown, so that's pretty exciting. If you guys enjoyed this video hanging out with me as we made pizza sauce and we made dinner together, I'd greatly appreciate a thumbs up. If you're new around here, consider subscribing. I love to make videos like this where we can and cook and do all the things in the kitchen and out in the garden. And it's just so fun having you guys around here, so consider subscribing if you're new. There will be videos that will pop up here if you want to go watch those. Don't forget, I will link all the canning equipment down in the description box, and all my recipes can be found on scratchpantry.com. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.